Good morning and welcome to my blog, Wisdom for Today. And here we are in the second week of Lent. And this Lenten season, we've decided to talk about and to consider and to pensively think about the fruits of the Spirit and how they were made manifest in Jesus' life as he headed his way to the cross. And we started with talking about the fruit of the Spirit that's called faithfulness. And we talked about how Jesus was able to stay faithful to his task during his temptation with Satan by quoting God's faithfulness, by putting his life in context of the greater story of salvation. Every temptation that Satan gave him, Jesus quoted scriptures about how God was faithful and how he had something better to worship. This week, we're going to talk about self-control. And on Sunday, I talked about how Jesus' self-knowledge, how his ability to understand who he was and what task God had given him, gave him a sense of stubborn holiness, a sense of self-control, a sense of I will not pass that line, and how he set his face like flint for the cross. And then I talked about the Apostle Paul and how he did the same, that he understood that God had given him a specific job, and that gave him a stubborn holiness. Now, on Wednesday night, I'm going to be talking about how we relinquish our control to God, and that gives us a greater sense of self-control. But today I want to talk to you just about the benefits of self-control. Now, most of us already know these, but so as I give them to you, I want you to understand that within the benefits of self-control, because we can beat ourselves up with these, and then how come I don't have it? Because I never control myself. There's grace. So we're handing ourselves over to God to build this self-control in our life. So the first thing that self-control gives us, and this is found in Proverbs 25:28, is boundaries. The ability to set boundaries with others and ourselves. A man without self-control, the scripture says, is like a city broken into and left without walls. Left without walls. Now, walls were the things that helped the city to have some privacy from the outside world. So someone just couldn't come in and know what they're doing. Walls were the things where guards sat on the sides of the walls, and they called if an enemy was coming forward. If you didn't have walls, you were open to attack. And the same is true with boundaries, because walls were boundaries. It gave people the ability to say, or gives people the ability to say, you can cross this far but not further. It helps us to build walls of protection. Self-control helps us to say no when we need to say no and say yes when we need to say yes. And self-control helps us to say, I'm taking care of that. I don't need your advice right now. Or self-control gives us the ability to say, I need some advice right now. The second thing that self-control gives us, and this is also found in Proverbs, is it helps us to manage our anger and our power. Better is a patient person than a warrior. One who rules his spirit is better than one who takes the city. So this is talking about conquering. And to conquer someone, you need anger, you need rage, you need power, but you can't use it all the time. Sometimes you need a patient spirit. You need kindness. You need diplomacy to rule a city. And that's what the Proverbs saying. But in our own life, when we exercise self-control, we hold back that anger to decimate someone. And maybe we use diplomacy. We hold back that rage to gossip or put someone down. And maybe we use Christian confrontation. Or maybe we just walk away from the conversation. Self-control gives us the ability to have routines of exercise and routines of taking care of ourselves. But I discipline my body and keep it under control. Lest preaching to others, I should be disqualified. And that's found in 1 Corinthians 9:27. And Paul was saying in so many words, and in the King James it says, I buffet my body. So it's a picture of someone who's exercising their body. But he's saying he'd be disqualified in that he would not have the strength to do the gospel unless he took care of his own personal needs. And that comes from discipline and self-control. To take that time, maybe just to take a walk, or to take that time maybe to read your favorite book, or to take that time just to go to the gym. All those things help us to preach the gospel better. And last of all, self-control is a gift of God. And this is where I want to emphasize grace. Because you might say, but all these things I have trouble in. Well, then we depend on God's grace. In 2 Timothy 1:7, Paul says, God did not give us a spirit of fear, but a spirit of power and self-control. And if you have the King James, it says discipline, but it's the same word in the Greek. So God doesn't give us a spirit of rage and fear, but a spirit of power. And sometimes that means dividing up rage from power. They're not the same thing. The power that God gives us is the power to overcome. That's through all the scriptures that we have this power. But it's something we grow into, like all of the spiritual gifts and fruits that God gives us. So don't be impatient with yourself. If you struggle with any of these issues, say, God, I struggle in this area. Most of us do struggle in one or the other areas. And God, will you once again endow me with a spirit of discipline and self-control? Help me that you and I can conquer this together. It's a beautiful gift, self-control, but we only get it as we yield to God. I look forward to seeing some of you this Wednesday night for our Lenten supper and then our Lenten service. And for others of you, I pray you find a Bible-believing church to get to, maybe to celebrate Lent or maybe to celebrate Sunday worship service this coming Sunday. God's blessings and have a wonderful day.